as an occupational therapist. Um, and I came down to Durban to actually complete my master's, and I was going through a period of not knowing where to go to next. And so there was quite a lot of uncertainty and also a lot of fear associated with that, because I knew that I no longer wanted to be practicing as a therapist, but I definitely didn't have an idea of what the next steps were going to be. And I think I probably used masters as an excuse to maybe come back home, be with my parents, and then use that time to figure out what my next steps were. But I noticed at the time that I think it was definitely the fear, the uncertainty. It made even doing my master's quite challenging. So I used to join the sessions in the morning. So the morning Murli sessions, despite not being an early riser, I just do not like mornings at all.
But you can see she has a cup of coffee there.
Yeah, I genuinely do not like mornings, which I'm trying to change. But what I realized was, like, just being there in the morning, it was a combination of the content that we were receiving, but also just the energy and spirits of the people I was around. That definitely made me feel much calmer and in a lot more control. So these sessions will start at 6 o'clock. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that and the time it starts. So I would rush off to BK's and yeah, be with the other members. And I realized that actually it sort of set the tone for the day. It made me feel, again, a lot more calmer and a lot more control, less fearful about the uncertainty going forward. And I guess these things are quite iterative. So I've come and gone into BKs a good few times. And I think whenever I come back to Durban, then I'm more active within the BKs. But definitely how all of the experiences, from maybe attending the random sessions to like the morning Murli sessions, sort of kind of maybe just strengthens your resolve and sense of self. Because even if I compare like who I was now to who I was then, I feel much more confident in who I am as a person. I think if this was a good few years ago and Raksha asked me to do this, I would have declined it very easily. Yeah, but as I said, I think these things are iterative and they all build up together. And so, yeah, I would say it's definitely helped me deal with uncertainty, deal with fear, just feel a lot more confident in myself and a lot more confident in terms of taking risks and change. So despite having, shifted from one profession to another, I'm not someone who's very comfortable with change. I do like structure and, knowing that there's some sort of predictability. But, yeah, being able to, sorry, that was my brother, being able to face change, risk, and uncertainty. I would say that a lot of that's definitely come from being within the BK's space. Yeah, that's about all I have to say.
That's wonderful. I know I have many young people who are just feeling, even after matric and in their lives after their studies, at crossroads about how to proceed and what is their purpose. And the world wants them to go in a certain way, and they're not sure if that's the way they want to proceed. And so this aspect of courage and trust is quite important, and I'm sure that's been your journey in the change that you have explored in your professional life as well. Because it's easy to get into a space and stay there for 40 years. So, but you've made a few shifts from clinical work to working with NGOs, and now you share you're working with health equity, and it's a it's on a global forum. What has been a pillar of strength or an anchor for you in the change? What are some thoughts that you might hold to support you in that change? Any thoughts with regard to that?
Yeah, and I think maybe my response will sound very generic because people, say it a lot casually, but that to honestly just trust the process, and that you will be guided in the right direction. It's not so much that I had to consciously think about every decision I was making, because I knew that there was this sort of underlying, whatever you would call it, that was sort of pushing me towards where I should be. And so I think very often, especially as young people, and maybe even culturally, there's a lot of pressure to go a certain way. So joining an NGO definitely was not a popular decision within my family. And I think even a lot of my friends were quite confused about that, and probably still are. But trusting the process and trusting in yourself, which again, I think I will tie in back to my time with the BKs, because I definitely was, even though change is constant, there was sort of like a certainty within BKs. There was sort of this, I could sort of always return to, I don't know how to explain it really, but there was sort of this like North Star that I could return to, which told me that even if things were bad for that time or for that day, that was just a temporary process, that you had to go through that. But yeah, so I think trusting in the process, which definitely came from trusting in myself first, which I think came from spending time with BKs and understanding that there are these uncertainties, but there are some things that are certain. So like your relationship with God, and yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So definitely such amazing anchors. So, these anchors are so intangible and so subtle, and yet so powerful. It's quite amazing how I remember even as a young person when I was studying medicine in Cape Town. And there's so much. But I remember one day walking early in the morning to the meditation center as well. It must have been 5:30. And my thoughts were scattered to what I still had to do, the past. And I just thought, if I stay present in this moment, connected to a higher energy, staying in the power of my energy, then I guarantee that the best moment will follow. So I remember that was very reassuring for me, and a simple formula to not worry about the future, but just be present in the fullness of myself and connect to a powerhouse, and know that because I'm paying attention to this moment, the fruit of successive moments will be perfect. And so I guess that's what you're also sharing, how that certainty in the uncertainty comes from these quiet practices, and knowing the eternal self, and knowing the eternal supreme, and knowing the best will be because you're holding on to these two anchors. So because self-worth and belief in yourself is not easy when we just think we are these bodies and we have to play all these big roles, and sometimes you may not feel equipped to play these big roles. But how when you come back to the point that you're a point and connect to a higher point, then the impossible becomes possible. Yeah.
Yes,
So
very, very much so. I agree with you on that. I think like to especially with sort of, well, maybe not to say this is a word of advice, but I mean, I think as young people, we are into our careers and changing careers and taking on new opportunities, and there's that anxiety and uncertainty associated even with that. So I don't consider myself like a super young person. So I kind of feel like, I've joined this new organization. I should be, exceptional already. I should be on top of my things. But it's basically been 3 weeks. And so when you say you're literally just a point that's, connecting with the supreme being or a larger point, I think it's very humbling as well, because you realize sort of not necessarily the insignificance of yourself, but that, in the bigger scheme of things, those little stresses are not that big.
Yeah, yeah. I remember even as a young person when we first had to interview for jobs, and a colleague told me, but there's nothing to think about. We are well equipped, and we just have to go there and speak. And so, how fear and anxiety, can be an obstacle, but how you've journeyed with that. So, any tips with regard to fear, anxiety for individuals on today?
Gosh, that's quite a broad question.
Yeah.
I think for me, so I guess with anxiety in itself, it's very broad. But so like with the meditation, I think it is a spiritual practice, but it was actually a practical practice that helped with my anxiety and uncertainty. And so, I'm assuming a lot of people on this call are already meditating, but just to maybe connect the dots and maybe they can reflect on that relationship between meditation and how they possibly feel less uncertain or less anxious. Because I've been to different sort of spiritual programs, and it didn't always feel like it connected on my day-to-day living, and I didn't see changes in my day-to-day living. But with the meditation, not a long time, because my concentration is also not great, but just something as small as that could actually help like your anxiety and your uncertainty. So yeah, if they're doing it, to continue doing it. If they haven't started, then to maybe start doing it for a few minutes. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Somebody on the chat says, stay true to the moment and be guided by the North Star. He liked that a lot. So yeah, being true in the moment and being guided. But thanks. So it's amazing, hey, with meditation, how the spiritual truths have been such a force and a power quietly to shift. And even as you said, it's not that you had given it much time, but just understanding and holding briefly onto these moments and how it feeds your spirit and it feeds your experience of life. And so it's really so beautiful to hear, and the power of spirituality and how it can really support one in one's life. And really, I feel the whole world is waiting, hey, to tap into that, because we get so caught up and lost in the whirlwind. So,
from life.
Yeah, but as you said, it doesn't take a lot of time, just a few moments.
And just to kind of, during the day, try to return to yourself when you're getting caught up in the chaos of what's going on, to just pause and just to say, well, what exactly is going on here? Is it really worth my stress? Is this really a big issue or not? Because I guess the lives we lead are quite chaotic. But not all of that chaos is necessary. So
Yeah. So wonderful. So any last words before we invite the team that's taking on the spiritual immunity of the soul? So a wonderful topic for this month. And any last thoughts?
I honestly wouldn't say I have any last words. Okay. No, I think I've said everything I've had to say. Thank you.
So thank you, Karessa, and it's really been wonderful being with you and having this chat online
Yes.
rather than well, we still have to meet up because we haven't met up, and she's in Durban at the moment. But wonderful. So it's lovely when we can have these conversations and come into company that supports and uplifts us, and that's what Morning Rise and Shine is all about. And so thank you again, and we'll
Great.
meet soon. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Raksha. Everyone have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So thanks. I think Nita is on this morning. Nita?
Good morning. Hi, Raksha.
Hi.
I had a little giggle because a few times I think both of you, Karessa and yourself, said when I was younger. And I'm thinking, well, you guys are still young. So I had a little chuckle to myself.
I think I'm 44. I don't know about young.
I often tell people I stopped aging at 26. The body is older, but the spirit is still young. And I think we all can agree that age is just a number. So that was a lovely, lovely conversation. And I love just the ease with which Karessa was sharing, just the naturalness of making things integrated and not to make a big thing out of everything or even the small things. So thank you, Karessa. It was lovely to hear from you as well. And thanks, Raksha.
Thank you, Nita.
So we're still going to be continuing with our immune system of the soul. And today we're going to talk about really understanding understanding how the immune system of the soul works. But before we do that, let's just take a moment and go into a meditation, come back to that place of center, and then we can connect again. So I think Danielle will play a meditation for us now.
True inspiration comes when I live in the real spirit, when I am filled with the spirit of peace, of love, of the divine. It's similar to enthusiasm, which is derived from the ancient word meaning filled with the Spirit of God. It is the natural state of the soul to be in that state of aliveness. The opposite of inspiration is inertia. I may be busy with activities and projects, but if my soul is filled with the spirit of only physical things, of situations, of things that people have said, of thoughts about the future, the body, the past, if my mind is only filled with those things, then no matter how busy I am, the soul will still feel stuck, caged by the world of form around me. To move from a state of inertia to inspiration, I only have to learn the very simple practice of taking my mind to the edge of the world, of letting go of stories and dramas, even if only for a few moments, just to be in the spirit. The true spirit has no story, no drama. It is simply pure vibration. So for the next few moments, just think of the quality of peace. and allow that quality to completely fill your being. Feel yourself far from the world, going deeper and deeper into a state of sacred stillness. And just allow yourself to be. Allow yourself to be simply peace.